Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The alarms would not stop screaming. Commander Elias Vorn floated in the broken shell of his escape pod as red warning lights flashed again and again. Smoke filled the small space. The air tasted like metal and fire. Outside the cracked viewport, space burned. His fleet was gone. Where proud human ships had once held the line, there was now only drifting wreckage and cold silence. And beyond it all, blocking out the stars like a wall of night, hovered a massive warship shaped like a black crown. The symbol on its hull glowed silver. The mark of the Velori Dominion. They had given humanity one command when they first arrived in human space. Kneel. Elias had answered with railguns and plasma fire. Now his ship was dust. The pod shook violently as something struck it. A tractor beam locked on, his console flickered and died. A calm alien voice filled the pod. Human commander, surrender acknowledged, prepare for judgment. Elias coughed and wiped blood from his lip. His ribs felt cracked, his right shoulder would not move. He laughed. Judgment, he muttered, you're welcome to try. The tractor beam failed suddenly, the pod dropped like a stone. Below him a planet filled the viewport. Silver clouds, pale oceans, rings of light circling its equator. He recognized it from briefings. Valor Prime. The sacred world of the Dominion. No human had ever stepped on its surface. The pod entered the atmosphere in flames. Metal screamed, fire wrapped around him, the sky turned white. Elias closed his eyes and waited for death. Instead he hit the ground. Hard. The impact tore the pod apart. He tumbled across white stone and rolled down a slope of smooth crystal dust. His vision blurred, pain shot through his body. When he finally stopped moving, there was silence. No alarms. No war. Just wind. He lay there for a long moment, staring at the strange sky. It was not blue, it shimmered like liquid silver, waves of light moving across it slowly. The air hummed softly, like distant engines. He forced himself to sit up. The land around him was beautiful and wrong. White plains stretched toward tall crystal towers that grew from the earth like frozen lightning. Rivers of glowing energy flowed between them, silent and bright. This is either heaven, he muttered, or I made a terrible mistake. A shadow fell over him. He looked up. She stood tall and still, outlined by silver light. Her armor was smooth and shining, shaped like flowing metal. Her long white hair moved gently in the wind. Her eyes glowed a deep, cold blue. In her hand was a blade of pure light. High Princess Kaelira of the Velori Dominion. Elias knew her face, every human soldier did. She was the heir to the empire that demanded humanity kneel. Her expression held no anger, no rage. Only certainty. The human who defiles sacred soil must die, she said calmly. Her voice was clear, strong and cold as winter. Elias tried to stand and failed. His leg buckled under him. He laughed again, though it hurt. Is there a welcome speech first, he asked, or do you just skip to execution? She did not smile. She raised her blade. The air shifted. The ground trembled beneath them. Both of them paused. From the crystal towers came a deep vibration, like a heartbeat waking from sleep. The plains cracked. Something enormous rose from beneath the surface. It was not flesh. It was not machine. It was both. A massive shape unfolded itself from the earth, covered in crystal armor and glowing veins of energy. Its many limbs struck the ground with thunder. Its faceless head turned toward them. Kaelira's eyes widened slightly. The planet awakens, she whispered. The creature moved. Vast. It struck toward Elias. Kaelira reacted instantly, leaping forward with impossible speed. Her blade cut into the creature's limb, sparks flying. Move, human, she commanded. I was trying to, Elias replied. He grabbed a broken piece of pod metal and rolled away as the creature smashed into the ground where he had been. Kaelira fought like flowing water, every step was perfect, every strike precise. But the creature was massive. Another shape burst from the ground behind them. Then another. This planet doesn't like visitors, Elias said. It judges weakness, Kaelira answered. The second creature lunged at her from behind. Without thinking, Elias moved. He tackled her out of the way. Pain exploded in his ribs as they hit the ground. The creature's claws missed her by inches and carved a trench through the crystal plane. Kalira stared at him. "You protected me," she said. "You're welcome," he groaned. "Now would be a good time to win." She rose and unleashed a wave of blue energy from her palm. It struck the creature and shattered part of its armor. Elias grabbed a jagged piece of debris and slammed it into a glowing crack she had created. The creature roared a sound like grinding stone and collapsed into lifeless shards. The third creature charged. Kalira stumbled. One of the beasts struck her across the side. Her armor sparked and she hit the ground hard. The blade of light flickered in her hand. The creature loomed over her. Elias limped forward, screaming as his leg protested. "Hey," he shouted at the monster, "over here." It turned toward him. That was enough. Kalira rose behind it and drove her blade into its core. Light exploded. The creature fell silent. For a moment there was only wind again. Elias leaned against a broken crystal and slid down to sit. "Well," he breathed, "that was unfriendly." Kalira looked at him differently now. "Why did you save me?" she asked. "You were about to die," he replied simply. Seemed rude not to help. "You are my enemy." "Maybe," he said, "but I don't let someone die if I can stop it." She studied him as if seeing something unexpected. A deep rumble echoed across the plains. More creatures were rising. Kalira looked toward the distant crystal towers. "We cannot remain here, the world will send more." "Lead the way," Elias said. "I'm not picky about direction." She hesitated only a second before turning and moving across the white plain. He followed. Every step hurt, his vision blurred at the edges, but he kept walking. Because that was what humans did. They kept going. They reached the edge of the plain where ancient structures rose from the earth. Smooth white arches formed a half-buried ruin. Kalira pressed her glowing hand against a stone surface. Symbols lit up in response. A doorway opened. They stepped inside just as another distant roar shook the land. The interior was quiet and dim. Soft light pulsed through the walls like a living heartbeat. Elias leaned heavily against a pillar. "So," he said, "is this where you finish executing me?" Kalira removed her helmet. Her face was sharp and calm, but something in her eyes had changed. "This world is not attacking you," she said slowly. "It is attacking both of us. Good to know it doesn't play favorites." She walked deeper into the chamber. Ancient machines stood silent, covered in glowing lines. "This planet was built by our ancestors," she explained. "It is a proving ground." "For what?" "For rulers." He blinked. "You're telling me this whole planet is some kind of royal exam?" "Yes." "And you brought me here." "You crashed." "Right, minor detail." She paused near a central platform. "The Dominion teaches that humans are weak, chaotic, unworthy. And you fought to protect me, even when injured." He shrugged. "That's not special." "For my people," she said quietly, "it is." The ground shook again. The walls flashed red. A voice echoed through the chamber in Velori language. Kalira stiffened. "What did it say?" Elias asked. She hesitated. "My fleet has entered orbit." "Oh," he said, "that sounds bad. They believe you captured me." "Did I?" "No. Just checking." Her eyes hardened. "They have given me a command." He watched her carefully. "What kind of command?" "To execute you, to prove my loyalty." Silence filled the chamber. Outside, the sky darkened as shadows passed over the sun. "Warships." Elias slowly pushed himself upright despite the pain. "Well," he said, "that's awkward." She looked at him. "If I refuse, I will be declared traitor. And if you obey, you die." He nodded. "Clear choices." More impacts struck the planet's surface as Dominion landing forces began to descend. Kalira stepped closer to him. "You should run," she said. He laughed weakly. "Princess, I can barely walk." The chamber lights shifted from red to deep blue. Another voice echoed, different, older. The planet itself seemed to speak. Symbols lit up around Elias. Kalira stepped back in shock. "The world is responding," she whispered. "To what?" "To you." He looked around at the glowing symbols circling him. I didn't study for this test, he muttered. The voice grew louder. The chamber trembled. Outside, explosions shook the plains as Dominion troops engaged the planet's defenses. Kalira looked at Elias with something close to fear. The sacred world chooses those who protect others, she said slowly, not those who rule by fear. He met her gaze. Sounds like your empire might fail its own test. Footsteps echoed from the entrance. Dominion soldiers in silver armor flooded into the chamber. They aimed energy weapons at Elias. High Princess, their commander said, step away from the human. Kalira did not move. Her hand hovered near her blade. Execute him, the commander ordered. Elias stood tall despite the pain. He did not kneel. Kalira looked from her soldiers to the human who had saved her life. The glowing symbols brightened around him. The planet hummed louder. Outside, thunder rolled across the silver sky. She lifted her blade. The soldiers watched. The human refused to bow. And in that moment, High Princess Kalira of the Velori Dominion had to decide whether she would obey her empire or defy it. The blade of light trembled slightly in her hand. The chamber filled with rising energy. And the sacred world waited for her answer. The blade trembled in Kalira's hand. The Dominion soldiers stood in a tight circle around Elias. Their armor shone silver beneath the pulsing blue light of the chamber. Weapons hummed, ready to fire. High Princess, the commander repeated, his voice calm and sharp. Execute the human, prove your loyalty. Elias stood straight, though blood still marked his uniform and pain burned through his ribs. He did not beg, he did not speak. He only looked at her. Not with fear. Not with anger. With trust. That shook her more than any weapon. The chamber floor glowed brighter beneath Elias' feet. Ancient symbols rose into the air like living fire. The planet's deep hum grew louder like a giant heart beating faster. Kalira understood something in that moment. The sacred world was not watching the human. It was watching her. Slowly she lowered her blade. The commander stiffened, Your Highness. Kalira turned her glowing eyes toward her soldiers. The human is under my protection, she said. Shock rippled through the chamber. He is our enemy, the commander answered. He fought to save my life, she replied. He fought without promise of reward, without command, without fear. That does not change his species. Her voice hardened. It changes everything. The soldiers shifted uneasily. By order of the Dominion Emperor, the commander pressed, the human must die. Kalira stepped in front of Elias. No, she said. The word echoed. Outside, thunder cracked across the silver sky. The commander's helmet lights turned red. Then you are declared traitor to the Dominion. So be it, Kalira answered. The soldiers opened fire. Elias reacted instantly, grabbing Kalira and pulling her down as energy bolts burned through the air. The chamber walls flashed and shifted. A barrier of blue light rose between them and the attackers. The planet had chosen. The floor split open, lifting Elias and Kalira upward on a rising platform. The soldiers shouted as the barrier sealed them below. The platform rose into a higher chamber filled with blinding light. Elias blinked against the brightness. Well, he breathed, that escalated quickly. Kalira stared at him. You should hate me, she said. Why? I have ordered fleets against your people. He met her gaze. And I fired back, that's war, this is different. The light around them formed shapes, images from long ago. They saw ancient Velori, small and afraid, hunted by larger empires. They saw how the Velori had once fought only to survive. Then they saw the moment power changed them. When they grew strong. When they began demanding others kneel. Kalira's expression tightened. We were not always conquerors, she whispered. No one starts that way, Elias said quietly. The vision shifted again. The sacred world showed rulers who passed its test, leaders who protected even enemies. Then it showed rulers who failed, those who ruled through fear. Their empires burned. The chamber trembled. Outside, Dominion warships began firing at the planet's surface. The ground shook violently. They will destroy this world, Kalira said. Not if we stop them. She looked at him sharply. How? The central platform before them began to rise. A glowing core of swirling energy appeared bright as a star. The Planetary Defense Core, she breathed. It has been dormant for centuries. Can you control it? She hesitated. It does not respond to command. Ilias stepped toward it. Then maybe it responds to choice. The core flared brighter as he approached. Heat washed over him, his wounds burned. Kalira grabbed his arm. It could kill you. He gave a small smile. Wouldn't be the first thing that tried. He placed his hand on the light. Pain exploded through his body. He felt as if every cell was being torn apart and rebuilt. The core searched him. Measured him. Judged him. He did not pull away. He thought of Earth. Of cities under alien shadow. Of soldiers who had refused to kneel. Of ordinary humans who stood tall when fear said fall. I don't want power, he whispered through clenched teeth. I just want them to stop. The light changed. It softened. The energy wrapped around him not as fire but as armor. Kalira stared in disbelief. The core accepted him. Outside, Dominion forces landed across the plains. Massive walkers marched toward the crystal towers, soldiers deployed heavy cannons. The sky filled with ships. Then the planet answered. Energy surged outward from the sacred world in waves of brilliant blue. Dominion ships flickered as their systems failed. Walkers froze mid-step. Weapons shut down. The ground itself rose, forming walls of crystal around invading forces. Inside the chamber, Ilias gasped as the light settled into him. Glowing lines traced across his skin like living circuits. Kalira stepped closer. You are connected to it, she said softly. Feels like sticking my hand in a star, he replied weakly. The chamber opened. They stepped outside. The battlefield had changed. Dominion troops stood confused as their machines refused to obey them. The Emperor's flagship descended through the clouds. A massive vessel, black and sharp as a blade. Its voice thundered across the plains. Kalira, you disgrace your blood. The Emperor's image appeared in the sky, tall, armored, ancient eyes cold with fury. You defend a human, he said. Kalira stepped forward. I defend what is right. There is no right beyond strength. Ilias walked beside her, glowing faintly with the planet's power. That's where you're wrong, he called out. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You dare speak? Yeah, Ilias said, I do. The Emperor signaled. His flagship's main cannon began to charge. The sky darkened. Kalira turned to Ilias. You cannot stop that alone. Then don't leave me alone. She nodded. Together, they stepped onto a rise of crystal overlooking the battlefield. The sacred world responded to both of them now. Energy flowed through Kalira as well. Not as ruler. As protector. The Emperor fired. A beam of devastating power tore toward them. Ilias raised his hands. The planet answered. A wall of crystal light surged upward and absorbed the blast. The impact shook the world but held firm. Dominion soldiers stared in shock. For the first time, their Emperor's power had failed. Ilias lowered his arms, breathing hard. Your move, he said. The Emperor roared in anger and ordered full assault. But something changed across the battlefield. Other ships appeared in orbit. Human ships. Damaged. Scarred. But alive. They had followed Ilias' emergency signal. Railguns fired from orbit, targeting Dominion weapons that still functioned. On the ground, enslaved alien auxiliaries began to hesitate. They saw a human standing beside a Velori princess. Not killing her. Protecting her. They saw Velori soldiers disarmed by their own sacred world. The lie of Dominion's superiority cracked. One by one, auxiliary forces lowered their weapons. Then they turned them against Dominion officers. The battle shifted. Unity spread faster than fear. Kalira raised her voice. Soldiers of the Dominion, this world judges us all. Will you cling to fear or stand for something greater? Some hesitated. Some dropped their weapons. Some fled. The Emperor's flagship attempted to retreat. Ilias focused the planet's energy. Crystals rose from the ground and wrapped around the massive vessel, locking it in place. Human fighters streaked across the sky, disabling its engines. The Emperor's image flickered. You would ally with prey, he spat at Kalira. She stood tall. I would ally with courage. The sacred world pulsed once more. The Emperor's ship went dark. Silence fell. Smoke drifted across the white plains. Broken machines lay still. Ilias swayed slightly as the planet's energy slowly withdrew from him. Kalira caught him before he fell. Easy, she said softly. Did we win? He asked. She looked across the battlefield where Dominion soldiers were surrendering. Yes, she answered. Months later, the galaxy felt different. The Dominion did not collapse in fire. It changed. Kalira stood before the High Council, now crowned Empress not by fear but by choice. She ended the kneeling laws. She released enslaved worlds. She opened peace talks with humanity. Ilias refused every offer of title or command. I'm not built for thrones, he said. Instead, he returned to Earth. To rebuild. To remember those who had fallen. One evening, as the sun set over a quiet human city, a silver ship descended gently from the sky. Kalira stepped onto Earth soil for the first time. No weapons. No army. Only trust. Ilias met her at the landing site. You're far from home, he said with a smile. She looked around at the blue sky. It is beautiful. Told you. She studied him. The galaxy once demanded your people kneel. And she smiled faintly. Now it waits to see what you will build. He looked up at the sky, where human and Valori ships now traveled side by side. We'll build something better, he said. The wind moved softly across the field. Two former enemies stood together beneath a peaceful sky. The human who refused to kneel. And the Empress who chose to stand beside him. The sacred world still turned in the distance, silent and watchful. And across the stars, a new story had begun. And